Hello and welcome to the morning bulletin. I'm James Martin in as a late substitution. Hopefully it's more Darwin Nunez against Newcastle than Steven Gerrard against United. We'll see how it goes. But I'm joined by James Findlater, also of Liverpool.com, and we'll be taking you through all of the stories that have broken about Liverpool in the last 24 hours or so. It's not been too busy, it's classic international fodder, and that's sort of where I want to start with the first sort of rumour, if you like, James. It's Leroy Sane, and it does sort of have that kind of whiff of maybe just international break getting us through the week without club football. But at the same time, he's an elite level player, left-footed, can play on the right wing. Does he make any sense to you as a possible Salah replacement when the time comes?
Makes sense in the sense that, as you say, left-footed player who can play right wing, and Liverpool are going to need to find a replacement for Salah soon. And I mean, we sort of know that Klopp might be interested in him. In fact, that Sané has previously said that he turned down he was kind of approached for a move to Liverpool back before he joined City. So there is that kind of element of maybe Klopp is interested in him. Maybe it is a player that could suit his style. So maybe there is something there. But as you say, at the moment, it does feel a bit, international break, looking for something just to fill a few inches in the paper. So maybe at the moment we'll see how it goes. It does make sense, but at this moment in time, would Liverpool kind of be going for someone from Bayern as well? And would Bayern be willing to let him go? I mean, there were kind of, rumours during the summer that maybe he might be someone who could make way. So we'll have to wait and see, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think he's under contract until 2025 at the moment. There's been talk that maybe there could be renewal to sort of fend off these reports, I suppose. But you mentioned the fact it's from Bayern. I suppose you could look at Thiago as the kind of point of reference. And the other similarity that would have is that Liverpool are kind of shopping outside their usual age range if they do go for someone like Sané. I mean, he's not as old as Thiago was when we went for him. I think he's 27 at the moment. But do you think that's another thing that would maybe put Liverpool off, or do you think it's kind of perfect to have that sort of bridge between Salah and then maybe someone even like a Ben Doak or maybe another young signing who would come in to sort of eventually take over?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking when you mentioned his age. I mean, obviously Liverpool, in an ideal world, probably would go for someone a bit younger. But if you have got Ben Doak, and clearly the club are very excited about him and what he can do, so maybe there is a thought of, well, we can almost get someone into, not necessarily for the long term, obviously get him in for a good few years anyway, but if you can get him in at least for a few years just while Doak is developing, if you need to get Doak out on loan maybe or something like that and get him a bit more experience, then hopefully someone like Sané might be ideal in terms of you just getting that experience, you're getting a good player as well, for a fact. I mean, he's done it in the Premier League as well before with City, so you know what you're getting. So for me, if assuming Doak is going to be kind of long-term replacement to Salah, then hopefully someone like Sané or someone similar, if you're going to get someone who's maybe out of the kind of age range that Liverpool you could go for, then hopefully the plan actually works with Doak.
Yeah, I think that's probably the sort of the proviso. It makes sense as a kind of temporary move, but then you do have to weigh up for a move like that. If you're sort of hoping it gets you 3, maybe 4 good years, it's a lot of money to spend on wages as well as on the transfer fee, most likely. So I suppose that's sort of why Liverpool have preferred targeting those younger players when they have. But then, it's no easy task to replace Salah, and putting it on the shoulders of maybe a 22, 23-year-old is perhaps too much to ask. And you look at the sort of the pool of talent out there, and in terms of, like we were talking about, the profile match, is there anyone else that springs to mind for you who maybe would be more in that kind of classic Liverpool mould?
I'd say no, in terms of if you want an out-and-out replacement for Salah, I think you're not really going to get that because, simply put, there's no one who can, come up with that kind of output from his position. I mean, he is, last season we're thinking only Haaland and Kane really beat him in terms of goals, and he's bagging ridiculous amount of assists to go with it as well. So you're not going to get that same type of player, and you're perhaps looking towards the future as maybe a bit of a change in terms of who is going to be that main goal getter. Obviously, you've got Darwin Núñez, who you'd expect might come into a bit more, and maybe in the future, what you're looking from your right winger might be someone who's just going to provide maybe more assists than Salah did, which is even that's going to be a tough ask for whoever comes in. So at this moment in time, I don't see anyone who could adequately replace Salah, but obviously it's something that Liverpool are going to have to think about quite soon, because obviously this interest from Saudi Arabia is not going to go away, and there might come a point where Liverpool have to look at it and think, well, if Salah's not going to sign a new contract, then maybe we do have to take that money.
Yeah, it's definitely coming up, that question on the horizon. Salah, like Sané, out of contract in 2025, which means that, you're looking at the summer as maybe the last chance to cash in, unless the club can sort out a new deal. So we'll obviously keep you up to date with anything we hear on that and any updates on that front. But for now, certainly we'll be watching and waiting. It's an interesting situation. But another place where we need to be thinking about adequate replacements, thankfully for more of a kind of short-term basis, is Andy Robertson. We don't know exactly how long he'll be out yet. We're still waiting anxiously on news on that front. He's come back. He's believed to have had the scan at the club, but nothing's come out yet in terms of the length of that absence. I mean, we've touched on it in previous streams, James, but just how much of a miss do you see that as being?
I see it quite a big miss. I mean, for my money anyway, I think Robertson's been one of the more reliable presences in the back four recently. I think he's perhaps not been at his best over the last year or so, but I think this season he has sort of got back a bit more to what we expect of him. And I mean, we saw against Wolves the kind of impact he can have when he's, I know there's a lot of talk about his role in the side and whether he should be, attacking as much as he is. But for me, I prefer seeing him doing that. And I think Liverpool look a better side when he is in that more attacking role. So for me, it is going to be a big miss. I'm confident that Tsimikas, is a decent enough backup. But I do feel a lot more comfortable with Robertson in the side. And it does kind of underline the importance going into January of getting, obviously, hopefully going to be looking at getting a new centre-back. Obviously, ideally, a left-sided centre-back who could perhaps also double up as maybe a bit of a left-back. So maybe that does come into play a little bit more. I mean, hopefully this injury to Robertson isn't going to be too bad. We all saw the pictures, so we all know what we're dealing with, I think. So hopefully back when it comes to January, hopefully he'll be back and we won't have to worry about it too much. But even if he is back, I think it does kind of come into focus a bit more. That Liverpool do need something on that left side.
Yeah, however long he's out, it's a bit of a sort of warning shot on that front, isn't it, in terms of what happens when he is out. And yeah, it's an interesting point you make about kind of Robertson's role now and that sort of, when does he go, when does he stay? I think he's adapted to it very well, to be honest. And I suppose there is the question mark over whether Tsimikas can do that. I've always quite liked him as the sort of like-for-like Robertson replacement in the sort of more traditional Liverpool backline. He is an attacking fullback. He does have a good delivery on him, but I suppose there would be questions about how well he adapts to that sort of tucking in role. We saw in pre-season there was a time when Klopp almost inverted the other way to allow Tsimikas the sort of freedom to kind of be almost the Trent figure, but on the other side, partly because I think Gomez was playing on the right at the time and he's obviously not the most naturally inclined to go forward, but also partly because those are Tsimikas' natural instincts as well. So I suppose that there are some other options as well. I mentioned Gomez there. Maybe he could be the one to sort of step into that role. He did play left back briefly when he first joined the club. And of course, as the left back role is now more of a kind of left back / left centre back, maybe that's something that could be looked at. There's also Luke Chambers we could mention, the youngster. He's got his first appearance recently, didn't he, off the bench, I think against Leicester, that was in the Cup. So options there. Do you think either of them could sort of come into the frame, or do you think it's sort of Tsimikas' spot to lose in the absence of Robertson?
Yeah, I think it is Tsimikas' to lose. I wouldn't be surprised in the cup, we do see, obviously we've got Carabao Cup game coming up soon, so I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Chambers getting a run out just to see how he does, if nothing else. I mean, we do need to kind of look at these players and find out how good they are and how they're going to fit into this side. So I think Chambers perhaps will come in for the cup, especially just to give Tsimikas a bit of a rest, because he's probably more than likely going to be in the side for the next few weeks in the league. So yeah, Chambers in the cup. Gomez, I think he's perhaps next in line after Tsimikas, although it's difficult to say really just how, Klopp would go. I think we've seen in the past, trying to fit in, square pegs in round holes doesn't always work. So maybe Chambers might be next best option, but I feel as though Klopp perhaps would be more willing to go with Gomez just to fill a bit of space for a bit, but hopefully we don't get to that point.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing with Chambers as well, we saw Kwanzaa, didn't we, sort of emerge from nowhere and then almost make people question, well, do we even need another centre back because of how well he's done? Maybe Chambers could be the next in line to that sort of pattern, especially as that kind of left-sided figure. All of the links last summer, it's will Liverpool sign that kind of left-sided centre back who can play left back, and that's kind of ignoring the fact that Chambers ticked all those boxes. And so, yeah, it just depends on can he hack it at this level. And like you say, it'll be very good if we can get an opportunity to see that in the coming games. And maybe the Carabao Cup is where that'll come. But I think that's just about all we have time for. Thank you very much, James, for jumping on and joining me. And thank you, everyone, for watching. We're here every weekday morning at 10 o'clock. So tune in again next time. Be sure to keep up with all our content, meanwhile, on liverpool.com throughout the day and on the Blood Red channel. And we'll see you soon.